Welcome to the Hero Shop podcast. I've got one of my favorite dudes in the space, in the Amazon FBA space, here on the show today. He was at the top of my list of guests that I wanted. I'm going to let him do a little intro for himself, but he is, one of the smartest guys in the space, super analytical, really understands the nuts and bolts of what's going on Amazon on like a daily basis. And he's also got his own brands, but he's got an agency called My Amazon Guy. I'll let you fill in the gap, Steven, if you want to there.
Hey, thanks for having me on. And I think you were an incredible guest when you came on the My Amazon Guy podcast. So it's great to return the favor. So nobody cares who I am. They just care what I have to say. So I'll keep my intro super short. I'm the founder of My Amazon Guy. We have 100 employees. We run full service agency, everything that grows sales within Seller Central. So traffic through SEO and PPC, conversion through design, merchandising, and catalog troubleshooting.
Great. Yeah. And if you're in need of help with your Amazon, so, there's so many different versions of doing Amazon FBA. But if you're in the space where this is a side hustle and you need help, My Amazon Guy is the perfect place to go. If you have a brand that's established or whatever, and you're like, hey, I need help with this piece and this piece and this piece, My Amazon Guy is a great place to go. My agency, Butter, is specific to creative, and we are sort of premium creative, right? You can get creative from many, many different places. And Butter is positioned as a premium offering, a premium place. Like you want cinematic, you want, models that live in Los Angeles that are here to do Hollywood movies. That's sort of where we stand. So today I would love to chat because I think you have quite a bit of data from your, how many brands are you working with now?
163 as of this moment.
Wow. So you have more brands than you have employees.
We do.
Crazy.
Yeah. So creating a scalable system, people ask me like, how do we service that through basically the EOS traction system, and just make sure we run a very thorough SOP playbook, soup to nuts. So when somebody works with us, they get my brainchild. They don't actually work directly with me these days. So right. I assign them an account manager and off they go.
Same with me. So when you hire Butter, you don't work with me directly anymore either. And it's that's been a fun process. It'd be a fun conversation to have that. But today, let's chat about what you're seeing that's working for e-commerce and Amazon specifically in terms of photo and video creative. So what comes to mind when I ask that sort of broad question? Is there something that in the last month, let's say, has really started to work differently, or in the last 6 months or whatever, that you've noticed like, oh, we've started doing main images this way, or we're using sponsored video ads? What comes to mind when I ask that broad question?
So video is still underrated. You can run video ads at lower cost with better results, and you don't even have to have an LA model in your video to get some people to click on it, right? Like I looked at my favorite ad ever created on Amazon is literally just an animated dog tail wagging and it hits the food. And it's very eye-catching, right? Like I've saved a bookmark to this ad because I refer to it every single week. So just simply having something that's eye-catching, that's different and unique, stops the user when they're scrolling down in their search results. That's going to create sales. So without a doubt, video ads, really underrated. You need to start the video smack dab right on your product, show it in use, banana for scale it, humanize it, show me the emotion, do all those things, and you got like 20 seconds, right? Like in the first 5 seconds, people are bailing if you haven't got their attention, right? So we could talk more about video. Real quick on main image. I don't think I've ever thought main image was more important than it has been in 2021. You got Amazon aggregators out there, $7.3 billion that I've personally estimated just on public references. I put up a website called AmazonAggregators.com where I'm tracking all of this. And you got aggregators buying brands and then basically just reskinning an item and then doubling the sales. And why is that? It's because one change on a main image can increase your click-through rate 30, 40, 50%. And then all of a sudden, instead of being in the top 5,000 in beauty, you're in the top 100. It's insane. So
Yeah.
it's massive difference. A lot of people come to my Amazon guy when they're like, hey, I've been doing good and I want to go from good and I want to go to excellent or great. And that barrier right there is much harder to hit through, and it requires a lot more sophistication and understanding. So you can run, on a very basic level, if anybody wants their 5-minute hack today, if you haven't run a PickFu test on your main image to A/B test you against the competition, that's your hack today.
100%.
Right? You'll get 50 people within 1 hour giving you feedback, telling you which product they'd rather click on and why. And without a doubt, I've already run so many of these tests. I already know that if you have larger text on your item in a main image, you're more likely to get a click, bar none. And the single color attention getting larger aspect ratios, and stop trying to slap everything about your product onto a product label. Keep it basic and simple, and a large word or two that summarizes your feature will do more for your brand than anything else right now.
Yeah, it's very interesting. This is something that we know Thrasio is doing, right? So they did that angry orange thing. We talked about it on the previous show. They just updated the colors, updated the packaging. And so, one thing I've
noticed, they even watered down the product too, right? Like they watered it down and then tripled it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And it's so I think as a follow-up to your hack today, I think the question I have for you is, we have a competitor who doesn't. So they actually added in Photoshop one of those items on the front of their package. They don't have this. I ordered the product. It's not on the actual product when you get it from Amazon. They added it like a label type of thing on the main image, and did exactly what you said. Large text with the main feature, the main benefit. And is that a tactic you've used? Would it be something you recommend? It's sort of like gray hat.
I would put that one on the gray hat. I was just about to say that. And I think it's not ideal, but I think somebody who's heading towards that and is going to update their packaging, and they just put the design up before the packaging updates, I think it's acceptable. If you're putting something that misrepresents what you sell, I would call that black hat, and I'd say that's a no-go. But if you're just embellishing it, I think that's a marketing technique.
Yeah. Do you use badges or anything like that on any of your main images?
So as most listeners know, badges and emojis and other graphically enhanced techniques have really come under fire under the last year or so on Amazon. So it's harder to get those to be present, right?
Yep.
But if they're in your packaging, you're golden.
Right.
So that's how people are getting around it. So in some instances, people will have an item with it, in use right next to the packaging where the item would be in possession of. So they got like a 2-stack almost. And that's an opportunity to get around that problem. So the packaging can emphasize what you would have put a badge with, and then they can see the banana for scale product next to it. Another thing we found is that if you put it in the accessory, it increases your click-through rate by 30%. So a lot of the A/B testing we did was to show that, like, hey, just showing that part, that accessory, the fact that this is this is a blender that plugs in with a USB charge, that was a big deal to consumers. And so all of these elements need to be represented in the main image to get somebody to just show up on the listing to begin with.
Okay. Now, when you do A/B testing, do you use PickFu? Obviously. Do you also, PickFu is fast, right? It's like within 37 minutes, you're going to have your answer. And also with a bunch of data, with a bunch of reasons why the people say, like, oh my gosh, they didn't even realize what this product was or whatever. Like it's a gold mine, and it costs $50. Do you also use A/B testing for the main image or A+ content through the Amazon platform, like Manage My Experiments?
We do. And we've run less of those because we've basically standardized our best practices, right? And I'll give you a couple of examples here. So if I were to ask you, and this is a really weird question, by the way, but if I were to ask you, who is the target demographic for a mail order bride? What's the first thing that comes to your head?
Some middle-aged guy lonely guy in the Midwest.
So I think that's accurate. Now, if we try to go a layer deeper, give me one more factoid about this imaginary individual. Something super specific as you can get.
He's very pale.
So I think that the main target demographic of a mail order bride, that you would know that your conversion rate would be higher with this demographic, so specific, higher than any other demographic that you could possibly come up with, is 3-time divorced truck drivers. And they've been married. They know what they've experienced. They travel a bunch. They don't have the social skills. They just want somebody to be a companion, right?
Yep.
So as weird of an experiment questionnaire this is, I find it to be highly effective in conversing with people who are selling stuff on Amazon, because if we ask that same question about whatever product you sell, like do you have a product that you can talk about that you sell?
Sure. We sell room spray.
So for that room spray, same question. Who's the target demographic?
I think a mom, a homemaker.
So if we went to market with a male picture for that room spray, would our conversion go up or down?
Down.
So why then do most listings on Amazon not even have a picture of their target demographic in their secondary image stack? Like it's devoid. It's a desert. They just show the product, they show an infographic, and they show a label, and they completely miss the humanization element. They don't show the human using the product. They don't show the lifestyle of what target demographic you're aspiring to be, right? You have to do all of these things. I'll give you one example here. So I had a call with a $5 million brand, and they were trying to figure out how to take the brand to the next level. And I started looking at their images and content, and I said, hey, when was the last time you looked at brand analytics? They're like, what do you mean brand analytics, right? Nobody ever checks brand analytics on Seller Central. That's your second 5-minute hack today. Check brand analytics. And when you go look at brand analytics, and if you didn't realize, who is your target demographic, this will tell you at least from a baseline. So what's the male to female ratio? What's the age demographic? What's the wealth demographic? As marketers, it's our job to profile people and to narrow them down. If we are excluding people when I'm selling a product, I'm actually doing a good job. It's the complete opposite of the political landscape that we face as a country right now. And we won't go into that, but I make that point because don't cast a wide tent when you're marketing a product. Do the opposite. Cast a super narrow one. If you do this and you're selling, so back to that $5 million brand story, they were selling a blowtorch, right? And when I looked at that, my first 10-second gut check was, oh, this is for 40-year-old women who want to make creme brulee. How wrong I could not have been more. When I looked at the brand analytics, it was bought by males 67% of the time.
Wow.
What? Right? Like what?
Yep.
So I was like, okay, this is really interesting stuff. Like, let's go analyze the competitors. So I looked at the competitor stuff and I looked at the top 10 listings in this category. And lo and behold, on 3 of them was a picture of the blowtorch, which I thought was just used for cooking food to light a cigar. And at this point, I realized, oh my gosh, this is probably for 40-year-old divorced men who are trying to impress the ladies because they don't have dating game, but they can flip on a torch and have a gimmick. And then after they cook dinner, they want to they want to relax and smoke a cigar. So we redid all of the imagery, focus on that target demographic, and of course the rest is history. You know exactly what happened. They grew their sales. Yep. So knowing your target demographic and then positioning the imagery behind it will drastically improve your conversion. What people don't realize, though, is it actually goes much deeper. What happens when your conversion rate goes up? Your keyword ranking drastically increases. Well, why is that? Because Amazon makes more money on your listing. If you convert more people, they want more people to find you to begin with. So they're going to give you free keyword rankings. So the fastest way to increase your SEO is to add more copy to your listing. Without a doubt, fastest way to index. But the fastest way to matriculate those rankings is to convert the buyer. And so here's your third 5-minute hack today. In A+ content, if you don't have massive amounts of copy, you're missing out on massive amounts of indexing. Amazon claims and is on record saying they do not index A+ content, but they do. And anybody listening to this can test this yourself. Go put in Spanish keywords under one photo's alt text, 100 characters of Spanish keywords in one alt text photo of your A+ content. And I guarantee you within 48 hours, you will index for at least 3 of those Spanish keywords, which proves Amazon indexes A+ content, which means you need to put copy in your A+ content. You can't just have giant images if you want to index for thousands of more keywords.
So I've heard you say this before, and I know you have a little different philosophy on A+. So everybody out there in the world, Steven knows way more than me about SEO, and he's an SEO guru. That's part of your background, right?
It is. Yeah. One of the funnest projects I did was for a website called atmix.com. They sell gold and silver coins. And I raised their organic traffic by 10 million uniques in less than 365 days. Yeah,
that's insane. That's insane. So SEO is definitely his strength. And I think we can pair these, our two strategies. So my strategy for A+ content in our agency is really just sort of a visual feast of trust, building like, oh my gosh, this is a real brand that really sort of the big brand play of like Nike, big commercials, right? This is our Super Bowl commercial. The A+ content is the moment where we say we're a real brand that really understands you, that understands that you want to trust us and believe that the A+ content is so good that we know the product is going to be good. And I mean visually and sort of branding and that whole thing. So I think with the strategy of alt text, we can merge these two. So I personally think that the text that Amazon gives us, even the font or whatever, if you use their modules, is pretty ugly. So we lean Yeah. Okay. So we lean away from that because what it does, I believe, is it says, okay, oh my gosh, the brand's so cool, so cool. What is this weird Amazon thing? So cool, so cool. So when you're looking at it like it's a website or like a visual feast, that sort of breaks it up. Can I get the SEO juice by just doing alt text plus big banner images?
You cannot. You need to add 500 to 1,000 words of copy into the A+ content. Now,
follow-up question though, what if I put in the back end, you know how there's the product description that disappears when you add A+?
Yep.
What if I do alt text and that one?
Still insufficient. All of our testing shows. And so like, I think that there's no question in my mind that your designs are going to be 100 times more beautiful than anything my Amazon guide puts out. It's like without a doubt. But ours will probably rank faster and generate more sales on new products because we put massive amounts of copy and make it look ugly. There's no question about it. Like when it comes to SEO, you have to concede design. If you don't concede design, then you're not doing SEO, you're doing design. And so like there has to be a concession between these two departments. Otherwise, only one of them can win.
Yep. What if we, I'm going to keep going here. What if we just, the bullets are just stacked Just bullets are stacked with the thousands of keywords. We have them in our title. We have them in our back end. We have them. Do you think in the A+ content as a place, and you know, maybe it's a little bit of a fool's errand where it's like, yeah, sure, we can put in a paragraph of Amazon kind of bad looking text there because it's all over the page anyway, right? It's on the sides. It's not like the A+ takes over the whole page anyway. So maybe I'm over indexing on the design here.
I mean, to be clear, like if you're already indexing for 3 or 4 or 5,000 keywords, then I would prefer a heavy design with less text.
Got it.
But if your item is stagnant and you haven't been able to break through those thresholds, if you have an index for at least 1,000 keywords in the first 30 days, I guarantee you it's because there's not enough copy in the A+ content. We've just seen it so many times. And by the way, not all of our clients agree with our framework. We have highly detail-oriented former marketers as clients or even designers. And we'll tell them like flat out, you're not going to like our designs ahead of time. We know that, but you're going to like the sales.
Yeah.
And so when somebody hires us, they hire us for growth. They don't hire us for design.
And the same goes for the main images. So if we were to design an image set, if Butter was to design an image set for what we think is the most beautiful, highest branding, I mean, we believe it'll convert. Like, you know, in a magazine, or if you're in the store and it's like a banner or whatever, but we add infographics on our main images, even though it's not the best design choice, because for the same reasons. So the second image needs to have a lifestyle. It needs to be a lifestyle image for sure. We're in agreement there, you know, and then you need to have infographics and text on your images, on your image stack. And purely from a design standpoint, we would never do that. But we're there with you. We're sort of like massaging these same things. We don't put thousands of keywords in our A+, but you know, we should test it. This is the thing that I think is interesting, and something that obviously Steven does here and everybody in the audience should do, is you do your creative, you do your videos, you have your agency do whatever, then you test that. You have to test
big time,
right? You have to test, is this working? What is the market telling me? What is the data telling me? What is the PPC telling me? And then you go and you adjust. And it's like the positioning of the product, the avatar, you put your product out there, and at the beginning, and tell me if I'm wrong, Steven, it is somewhat of a guess. When you're first starting, you're looking at the market and you're taking your shot. You say, I think this is an X. I think it's a room spray, but you know, by the way, it actually ends up being a pillow spray, and they're not super different, but that's a different person. So the person searching pillow spray they're looking for something that has sleep aid in it, right? If you're looking for room spray, you don't want to fall asleep. So what is it? Right. And you have to discover that through the data.
I think that the data before you go to market is very available from the concept of what is in demand. How are consumers searching? That's 100% available before we go to market. But I agree with you. Once you go to market, what you can't predict is how consumers will use your product. And I'll give you an example to this. I was talking to a gentleman who was selling a very peculiar type of product. It was a hummus ice cream. That's right, a hummus ice cream.
Wow.
And so when he went to all of these shows, right, people would come up to him and then ask him, what do I do with it? And the guy got frustrated after 17 people in a row asked him. He just paused and said, you effing eat it. And so sliced bread took 16 years to catch on, right? So your products are going to be used by the consumer in ways you can't predict, right? You could take ivermectin, horse paste, whatever. People are using it in ways people didn't predict, right? Like we could go on with dozens and dozens of examples where consumers are going to take a product that they believe solves their problem and they're going to run with it. So you can't predict how consumers will use your product. What you can do, though, is predict how they search to begin with. And when you go to build the listings, you have to be building your title, your bullets, your A+ content, and all of the text involved with that in mind.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so when you look at let's talk about that second image, the one that you're saying needs to have the person in it, right? This is your target market, so it's like a woman standing in a kitchen because this is a kitchen product or whatever, and get as specific as you can. There are multiple options about how to execute this, and I'm assuming a lot of folks don't do that because it sounds expensive. It sounds hard. It's like, how am I going to do this? So version 1 is Photoshop in some random shot of a stock shot of a lady standing there, right? And then put your product next to it. Try to Photoshop it into her hand or something weird, right? That's version 1, and I'm sure you guys do that, right? We do that
all the time
sometimes
because most people don't have the assets or the photo shoot or willing to hire butter for LA models.
Yes, exactly. And then the other version would be we go into a studio and it's relatively affordable. We do get a model and we shoot in a studio. Third version is we actually shoot in a kitchen or on the mountaintop for your water bottle or whatever, you know what I mean? Like you go to Venice Beach and you shoot the actual whatever. So
version 3 every time, if you can.
So this is the problem that I think people face is how do you quantify that ROI? Because the ROI is massive and it's like you're launching a product or whatever. Some people just get it. Some people get it, but there's a lot that are like afraid of spending that money, investing in that in order to see that ROI over long term. I have some anecdotal evidence myself, but what have you seen? Is it like we see X conversion rate change, or we recommend every single client do that, go and do the full thing, or because of these results we've seen? Like, talk me through that a little bit.
I would say that if we were to list out like all of the ROI techniques that one could do, that particular conversation piece is probably not going to make my top 5. It may not even make my top 10. So the number one thing people can do to improve sales on Amazon is to launch more products. Number 1. Number 2 is to spend more on ads. And then as we go down that list of my top 5, inventory is going to make up a heavy part of that conversation. If you can't keep yourself in stock, then it doesn't matter what the conversion is, right? So logistics comes into play. And as we start massaging down that and you're like, okay, you are a legitimate brand, you're a multi-million-dollar brand. And at that point, if you've checked all of these core boxes, then it makes perfect sense that you're going to have to invest further into the development of your brand. And by the way, I think Butter's designs are a decade ahead of the Amazon platform, like a decade ahead. But unfortunately, the system where you're putting these beautiful things in play isn't ready for your beautification.
Yeah.
As time goes on, it will adopt. It'll move in your direction, though. I believe that. I think it won't take a decade. I'm just saying. I use that as a phrase because a lot of time when we get some feedback from somebody who's been in the design space, they'll actually frame it like that. I'd be like, man, this looks terrible on Amazon. We get that all the time, and we're like, yep, we know, but it will sell.
Yep. No, and trust me, I have 125 SKUs on my own brands and the agency, right? So there are 43 that have pretty average creative. And it's not average in the sense that we really understand the positioning, that we understand the target market, that we understand what we're trying to accomplish here, and telling the story to really sell the product. It's not average that way. It's good, very good. It's average in like, is this a premium design? Is this a premium video? Did we go to Venice and shoot it? Like a lot of times we decide not to.
Yeah, it's a question of scale.
Yeah.
Right. Every business owner ever, when they get up in the morning, has to make a scaling question. Does this scale my brand today? And if it doesn't, then they shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah. This is the thing that I will say is the folks out there, butter is not for everybody. I think my Amazon guy is in some ways for everyone. Wouldn't you say? Like any Amazon seller brand could utilize your services for something.
They could. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got like cursory things like, oh, you can file a trademark with us, which is random, right? But yeah, our full service clientele usually between 500K a year and 3 mil. That's our strike zone.
Cool. For Butter, you know, we're working with folks who want to build a brand, a real brand for the long term, probably for an exit. And if you're looking to do that, I'll speak from experience. Is I'm in the process of going to market to sell 2 of my brands, and the branding and the creative is one of the first things that people say. They're
It's
like, "Oh my gosh,
point. Yeah,
right?" It's a huge talking point, and it's like, "Wow, I really want." The buyers are like, "I'm going to buy this real brand. I'm going to buy a real brand." Yes. So if that's your strategy, if that's your, I mean, you cannot win on the Amazon game without all the things Steven's talking about. You got to have SEO. You got to have all this stuff. And I agree with your list. But if you're playing long term, if you want to build a real brand, and not everybody has to do that. That's only, you know, certain people that are like, okay, I want to do this. And that's when the creative comes in, and you don't have to spend an arm and a leg to do it. But you know, so I think that's from my experience, what I've seen. And I think where people really could benefit long-term from this. I'm going to invest in this now. By the way, if I invest 5K in that video, I can use it in a bunch of places, right?
Yes, you can.
Right. We take everything. Yep. You put it on YouTube. You have your own YouTube channel. You put in you have some nice keywords on your YouTube listing, your post. You put it in your social. You put it. I think, you know, everything from like Amazon posts will probably include video at some point in the next year. To multiple places on your listing.
Yeah, when people go around doing the predictions for the year, I might borrow that one. I'll quote you though, Justin, because video going in social posts makes perfect sense. Yes.
Yes, totally. And you know, the social posts are free now on Amazon, and we're getting lots of traction from these things, but they're gonna charge for it ultimately, I believe.
I've heard people say that. I'm not sure because, you know, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram's models, none of them charge for posting content. So I can't imagine why Amazon would.
Yeah, that's true. The reason I think it is because when you click on the advertising tab, that's where Amazon posts is.
Yeah. The positioning, it's like, where else would you put it? Those, I guess, one of the questions I'd ask.
Right.
You know?
Right. Okay, cool. So when you let's talk a little bit more about video. So when you do you guys create videos?
We are a digital only shop, so no physical location. So we can't shoot photography or video, but we can edit it. So, you know, if somebody can just take out their cell phone and shoot something so that we have something to work with, great. You know, or we'll take some still shots and just make something work. We've also tried to, you know, get some stock video. I don't recommend that track. It's really not worked out very well. That's the challenge.
That's interesting anecdotally that you guys have seen the stock footage thing, because this is everywhere, the stock footage thing. I would suggest as well, rather than getting a bunch of random stock footage, go and just use your photos and, you know, use Animoto or some tool, Canva or whatever, some tool like that to create a little slideshow and use that as your video, as opposed to, if you're going to go super budget, as opposed to buying stock footage. If you're going to match stock footage with real footage of your product that you can kind of edit together in a cool way, that can work. But I would agree with you on that. So you don't actually do any shooting. That's smart. That's what we do. So maybe there's maybe there's clients of yours who are like, we can just use Butter to do this, and then my Amazon guy can do the post production or whatever. We can do the physical production. There's a bunch of services out there that can do that. Now, your number one on what to do for ROI on Amazon is launch new products, right?
Yes.
So in order to launch new products, you have to have photos. You don't have to have video.
You do.
But you have to have photos.
Yes.
So do you have, like, are you suggesting folks just get started by shooting some stuff on their phone?
Whatever it takes, whatever it takes. So just get started. So the people out there who have high drive, they'll do whatever it takes to get up, right? For the people that have high detail orientation, who are more brake than they are gas, that won't fly for them, right? So if you're in the latter camp, you're going to be hiring a photographer and going the 9 yards. Because if I were to suggest to you, if you're somebody who is close to perfectionist or high detail orientation, that done is perfect, you would have an aneurysm, right? Like you have to have perfect is perfect, not done is perfect. So it just depends where you want to take your brand and how you feel about it. But at the end of the day, just get started is very much our mentality of just get something in the motion. My number one talent as a human being is iteration. I can iterate deductively faster than anybody I know in my life. So when I'm looking at a situation, I never get it right the first time, almost never. But through the process of iteration, I can make micro adjustments and get there faster than most people can if they just try to cut once and measure twice. I cut 17 times, but I'll get there faster than you cutting twice, measuring twice.
And I think that's great. And I think that's something that people aren't doing enough, where it's like, oh, I built my listing and then, oh man, let's just run more PPC to it or whatever, rather than iterating on that listing, either the SEO or the positioning or the creative or whatever. Say like, let's incrementally, get like we know the conversion rate's at 15%, and we do X, Y, and Z. We do some split tests or whatever to get it to 25%, and that completely changes the game.
Anybody that has 25% conversion rate, you are leaving sales on the table. You got to get more traffic at that point. Hey, by the way, I'll give you an example of the iteration too. So Age of Sage, this is one of my brands. We sell, and I'm very public with all the items I sell. I just launched a new soap product, one for women, one for men. So I got like a masculine 4-pack and a feminine fruity 4-pack. My fruity 4-pack is doing only 25% of what my masculine's doing. For whatever reason, there's a better market for the masculine. I've sold 100 units in 7 days when we've launched this. I have changed my main image on this listing 4 times in the first 7 days. That's iteration. That's what that's like hyper iteration, trying to test. I ran putting the 4 soap bars in a plus sign to see if that would be better. I put them in a square sign. I tried in the box, out of the box, next to the box to see what would generate the best conversion and buzz. And so these are the sort of things that you can run through the motions when you're trying to like reconfigure all that iteration.
So did you got all those assets up front? Is that right? Or you shot them as you're like, okay, we need to try a different image?
So I went to market with one image, and I just was like, this just doesn't feel right. So I asked, I brought the photographer back, reshot some more stuff, asked for some kind of crazy different angles and whatnot. Then I gave it to my design team, and I said, hey, I want you to reconfigure the formation using these assets and the following constraints. And then we just tested the crap out of it.
And I think the final image, I think I saw on your YouTube channel, the final image ended up being in the package, looking kind of down on it. And the soap got plastic on top of it, right? Like the packaging.
Correct. So we have the final version was show half of the box at the top of the screen with the 4 bars underneath it inside of the plastic wrap. And so my wife was wondering like, hey, I wonder if just showing without the plastic wrap and the labels would be better. Yeah. I said, no problem. Ran a test. 90-10, got to have the plastic wrap on it with the labels showing the cedarwood tea tree, the Nag Champa, sandalwood, whatever. And that was extremely important to people.
See, that's super fascinating because it, visually speaking, will look better. Yes, it looks worse. And so this is one of those things that's just massively important. Is like, our opinion doesn't matter. The market dictates, right? It's like, you launch this product and it's, it looks like this. And, we've seen this a million times where it's like, we launch a product that we think is great. And for whatever reason, and by the way, all of you out there that are sort of testing products and sort of whatever, like trying to think about, you get a sample, show it to 5 or 10 people that in your network, you'll know. I had this one like plateware kitchen thing that it was sitting in my house and I hadn't launched it. I hadn't decided to do it. And a bunch of people just came over and like noticed it and were like, is this one of your products? Like, this is super cool. And there was like other things sitting there. And this happened 3 or 4 times. And I was like, oh my gosh, and you can do that. If you have a social media following, you can do the same thing. Like, hey, what do you guys think about this? Like put it on your Instagram stories. Like, between these two, what color do you like best? All these sorts of things, you can get a lot of information. We find out right away. Do you guys do SFB or do you do anything like that? Giveaways and stuff?
We have discouraged that. We have basically seen so many people burn from doing external traffic gimmicks that we discourage it. We don't prevent our clients from doing it, but we won't service it ourselves because we're uncomfortable.
Cool.
So we basically do everything within Seller Central organically in the platform, and we don't run any of the playbooks outside of it. So keep it very basic.
Cool. Yeah. And you're really good at SEO. So in some ways it's like, these are for people those strategies are for people who aren't that good at SEO. So it's like, we can kind of cheat the SEO or speed it up. But we find with an SFB, like any kind of giveaway, you can tell right away if the product is popular or not. So if you're what I'm saying is, if you're just listening, if you're out there, like Steven's listening to himself, he's been in the space a long time. He's like, for some reason, this product, this imagery doesn't feel quite right. And so he tests another one. And then, his wife gives a suggestion and then they test that. And you go out there and then you test and you see and you get the data back and you make adjustments. Do you guys do this with video? Do you for like sponsor video ads or something? We've done like run split tests and stuff like that. Do you guys,
yes,
hey, you need to change the first 10 seconds of this video. It's not getting any clicks or whatever.
Yeah, you could test long versus short. You could test where to start the video. Like, should it start on the product? Should it start on the person? Should it start on text? You can test all of these elements. And, what our best practices have found is that the first 5 seconds, you need to get their attention. So what gets attention could be different depending on the type of product, right? So one of our products that we're coming out with is a smudge stick. So I know already that lighting the smudge stick on fire is going to be in the first 5 seconds, without a doubt. Right. But every product's going to be different. If you sell a pet product and you don't show a dog in the first 3 seconds, then I think you're crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. So I do think there's some differences between catching people's interest on Amazon and as opposed to like Facebook or YouTube. Would you agree? There's some subtle differences. I don't know that we have incredible data on that, but
I would probably struggle to articulate the differences on the cuff here. Obviously people go to Amazon to buy.
Yeah.
Facebook,
that was what I was thinking too.
They're curious, like what's going on in the world, right? It's kind of a semi news feed of people and events. But yeah, I think attention getting is like, who can solve my problem the best? That's what people go to Amazon. They're not going to buy products. They're going for solutions to their problems. My kid's hungry. I need snacks in the house. That's a problem. That's a solution. I need to cut my gnarly toenails. Okay, I'm going to buy some toenail clipping, and look for the world's best tweezers. It depends. It just depends. Like, what's the most attention getting? Would it be better to show an attractive 20-year-old woman giving herself a manicure, or would it be better to show a 50-year-old man using steel to cut his gnarly toenail off, and he's a lumberjack? I don't know.
Yeah, people go to Amazon to buy. So they don't go to a magazine to buy. They go to a magazine to get inspiration.
Experience, yeah.
Right? And so they want to have an experience like, oh, I want to go flip through this whatever kind of magazine it is and be like, oh my gosh, this is what's happening. This is what's coming down the pipe. This is new stuff. This is like, oh, I never seen this kind of product. And then when they want to buy it, they go to a platform like Amazon to buy. So when they're on Amazon, they're there to buy. And if you show them some entertainment video, if it's like some kind of commercial, quote unquote, like a cinematic commercial, they're like, dude, I'm not here to watch this. I'm here to buy something. And they're going to skip it. That's my take on it. And that's from personal experience. When I see those types of videos, if I see somebody talking to camera on an Amazon video, sponsor video, and they're like unboxing the product, I might actually click on it to listen, especially if your product has sort of unique features that need to be explained. those things can kill. We have one of those videos that is like sort of like an influencer video they're you got to show the product right away in the beginning so they know, so the audience knows this isn't some commercial, this isn't a YouTube video that I watch for no, like it's the product and someone's going to demo it for me.
There's two types of products. You can bucket every product under one of these two buckets. There is co-op demand products. These are the Me Too, the white label. You're running the same gimmick somebody else's, the Apple slicers of the world. And the second type is demand gen or demand generation. If you have a demand generation product, you're selling sliced bread before anybody knows what sliced bread is, you need a Billy Mays to sell it. And so your video content is usually the best way to do that. Because if you're unboxing that video or showcasing what's inside the box and you got Billy Mays or somebody of his caliber talking about the item, they're going to sham wow you.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, cool. We're wrapping up. We're getting close to the end of the time here. So I want to get into one last thing, and then maybe if there's anything else I should have asked you or whatever. But what have you seen in terms of branding? Logos, like brands that have like quote unquote what we'll call like sort of real branding. As opposed to like sort of like one-off product types brands or like brands that are like just, sort of product focused. Have you seen a big sort of, like people repurchasing or people purchasing other items, like multiple items from the same brand? Have you seen big differences there? Do you have any, thoughts for us on that sort of subject?
If you ask 100 people what the last item they bought on Amazon was, they'd probably be able to answer that question. But then if you ask them, what was the name of the brand? I bet you maybe 7 out of 100 could answer that question. Amazon has killed brand resonance, if you will. Now, there's obviously major exceptions to that. If you're buying an Apple product, it's because you want to get laid. Or at least that's what Apple sold you when they first came out with iPhones and Apple products over the years. Now today, people buy Apple because they want the most intuitive UX or UI or whatever. By the way, I use Android. But I think it just depends on like what you're trying to accomplish, what mission you're out to seek, and what goals you're trying to set. And then based on that, you work backwards. If you're selling a luxury type product, your branding is in your entire identity, because somebody doesn't want to buy what would show up in a certain type of magazine if it doesn't meet that luxury fill, right? Like, and I'm drawing blanks on magazine names, and maybe you can tell me which magazines people would want to show up if they sell a luxury item. But if you were trying to sell a certain type of thing to a certain type of people and you're in the wrong demographic magazine, it's not going to work. So branding matters. Amazon's made it harder. It's harder to sell luxury on Amazon, and you really have to oversell luxury if you're going to do it.
Yeah, I think that's true too. It doesn't even have to be luxury though. Just a higher price point if you're looking to build, sort of a higher price point brand with higher price points. These things can work, but generally speaking, the times that I've launched products that are at the top of the pricing on Amazon, I end up launching one that competes with price. Like I'll end up launching a variation that actually competes with price on the Amazon platform. It ends up cannibalizing all the sales that I had from the larger one, and it does way better, like 10x. So that I think it can work. I think people are doing it. And
if you win on price today, you're going to lose on price tomorrow, though, right? Like you got to build a community. So if we go back to the 3-time divorced truck driver, if you wrote down the top 10 problems 3-time divorced truck drivers had, and then you built your entire content machine around answering those questions and built a machine to help those individuals, then they're going to be loyal to you before they even buy the mail order bride.
Yeah, I think that's true. And the only way to do that is to tell your story. So you got to tell your product story. You got to tell your brand story. It's got to connect to that person. You got to understand who that person is, and then connect those dots. I think it's a big opportunity. There aren't that many Amazon sellers who are doing this super well, And it's an opportunity, and I think that's the direction that we're headed, right? So you have Chinese products coming in; they're always going to beat you on price. Their creative is terrible, and their SEO isn't that great either. They just have really good prices, and their products, this is the thing that I think is going to continue to happen. Steven, you tell me this. We can end here. I think what's going to continue to happen is the customer is going to get more and more savvy. They're going to see this, and the only way they see this is through the photos and the video. This is photoshopped, and it's clearly, sort of mashed together, photoshopped imagery. It's probably made in China. It's probably a Chinese seller directly. You can tell, right? Their brand name is some weird word, right? I think the customer is going to get more and more savvy. And if you have a brand that is, and you have real lifestyle imagery, I think it's going to be a differentiating point that becomes more and more important as we go into the next couple of years.
I think so too. I think American Made is also going to start to see some resonance. And that's really where I think the platform's going to go. Right now, Amazon.com feels like Alibaba Light. Mm-hmm. And that's going to have to change.
Yeah, I agree. So I agree. And I think, so if you are a brand that is based, not in China, then I think you need to make sure that's clear, and, some of our products are made in China. Not all, but some of them are. And we say designed in California because it's true. And so that's one way we get around it, but it's an interesting thing. And I think becoming more and more important. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for the time. You're always, have so much great info, and I love that you're just nuts and bolts, like I mentioned from the beginning. We'll have to do it again. And
thanks for buttering me up. I appreciate it.
Love it. Okay, sir. Thank you so much. We'll do it again on another time. And thanks for joining us here on the Hero Shop podcast. If you want to hear any conversations like this on an ongoing basis, we'd love to have you subscribe and join the community.